You're on.
Okay, you're on.
We're here with Rudy Bermudez, who's running for state assembly here in the 58th, 57th.
57th Assembly District.
Well, Rudy, welcome.
Thank you.
How's it
Thank
going
you.
today?
Going great.
Yeah, how's the campaign? Tell us about yourself, first of all.
I'm a former school board member from Norwalk, La Mirada for 8 years, from 1991 to 1999. City council member from the city of Norwalk from 1999 to 2002, and a former state assembly member from 2002 to 2006.
So what have you been doing the last couple of years?
Well, last year I've been working on this campaign day and night. Prior to that, I was a retired parole agent, peace officer with the Department of Corrections.
Now, are you from Norwalk originally, or where are you from originally?
Born and raised in La Mirada,
Okay.
and resident of Norwalk, then now a resident of La Mirada. Back to the homeland.
So you grew up where'd you go to high
I
school?
went to high school at St. Paul High School in Santa Fe Springs. Played for Marion Anches on the swordsman football team.
Okay.
In 19. Gosh, these are some days, man. This is 1975. We played on the Coliseum against Loyola, and it was a 14-13 loss on the Coliseum grounds.
And you
State
okay.
championship.
Wow.
Football. Yeah.
Good times.
That was the old 4A back then. You know, divisions have changed dramatically since then.
And then where'd you go to college?
Graduated from UCLA
Okay.
with my bachelor's in sociology, and have a master's from Long Beach State, and a graduate certificate, that's postgraduate work in employer-employer relations from personnel.
And
Long Beach State as well.
you're married and got 2 kids.
2 children.
And how old are they now?
One's a sophomore and one's a 5th grader.
That seems hard to believe.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we're glad you're here today.
Thank you.
So, tell us a little bit more about what got you involved in public office.
Well, originally I was out of college, working as a parole agent, and you meet a bunch of the neighbors, and you're all talking on the street about how bad the school board is in Norwalk, La Mirada, and how the budget doesn't get passed and everything, and being talking with them about it. They said, well, you need to run. And I was like, and so I was like, what are you guys talking about? Then the more chatter, and so you need to run. At the same time, Wilson was eliminating Proposition 98.
Governor Pete Wilson?
Yes, and so I then formed a little committee that went out and got signatures throughout La Mirada and the city of Norwalk, and rallied a lot of the PTA moms to support it, and we sent those signatures, thousands and thousands of signatures from Norwalk and La Mirada to the governor, requesting not to suspend Proposition 98, which is the school funding bill. Then more people started saying, hey, you need to run for school board. At the time, I was not married, I had no children. And I was telling them, I have no children in the district. And they said, well, you don't wait to run until you have children, because by the time you get in there and make changes, your kids will be graduated. So I listened to them, and finally I ran in 91, and was a top vote getter. And since then, we've made a lot of great changes. We brought on Pat Ruiz and Gabe Garcia and Daryl Adams in 1993, and we righted the ship and created brought more board members on, and we righted the ship, had a reserve 3 times over the state mandated requirement, so it was a very healthy reserve. We had given out 28% increases in benefits and salary to all the employees. We expanded the class size reduction to all 3 grades, including kindergarten, 4 grades, and then We went on to open new schools. At the same time, we did something that's really unusual. We moved towards a performance-based budgeting. We eliminated duplication of spending, and based our programmatic results on the meeting the goals and timetables for the mission of the different programs, and we found that there was duplications of efforts, so we eliminated that. We took the savings, put that in the reserve, and they've benefited tremendously over the years from those reserves because, as we all know, bad economy, they've had to rely on those reserves that Pat Ruiz, Gabe Garcia, Daryl Adams, myself, that formed, and then later Leonard Shyrock, another individual who was on the board, who benefited from that as well.
Keep going. I was going to say, how's the campaign going so far?
Campaign's going fantastic. You know,
Are you pleased with the reaction you're getting so far? And
the overwhelming support has been tremendous. I was in South El Monte last night at the council meeting, and you know, the council and residents and some of the commissioners were all there, and they were all coming up and, you know, wanting to work on the campaign, the whole bit. You know, we have tremendous support among the local electeds. Basically, we have 54 or 55 now local elected officials who have endorsed us compared to my opposition's 3 or 4.
who are some of the key people that you've got supporting your campaign?
Well, I think the key supporters are the residents.
Okay.
And they're so numerous, I wouldn't want to say one is more important than the other. I think the other is the school board members and the city council members, all residing in the community. And then I think those are the two most. And if you wanted 3, I would say having Linda and Linda Sanchez, Grace Napolitano, and Tony Mendoza on board has been really well as well. I mean, you're looking at about a campaign that's grassrooted. It's made up of people who reside in this district, and we're going to move forward.
What do you think of the opposition?
I think they have a lot of problems. They're not addressing the issues of the community. For instance, you can't even articulate the concerns of the community. You know, we have a lot of environmental issues. We have jobs issues, but we also have to look at the future, and it's about credibility. It's about understanding the critical issues that affect our community. You know, born and raised here, you know, oil was king out in Santa Fe Springs, looking at those
Yes, it
Whittier, La Mirada, the Whittier Hills.
Yeah.
You know, this young man has no clue what that historical perspective of the community was.
And then who are you speaking of when you say you're young men?
My opposition.
Which is
Ian Calderon.
Ian Calderon, okay.
And so he has no clue of the historical perspective of our communities and what was built around them. At the same time, when you see how that economy has evolved, you know, we lost all of our oil refineries. Many of the wells have been shut down. There's a lot of wells still in Santa Fe Springs and Whittier, but they have you don't see the structures anymore because they're all underground now. But oil was king, and we moved those areas like the old Golden State, which used to be Gulf Oil Refinery in Santa Fe Springs, which is nestled one block by La Mirada, and the other side Norwalk. And it's that little strip that goes right through between the two cities. That's Santa Fe Springs. That has all become warehousing, and you know, and this young man doesn't understand that we need to have people that look at the future and look at the vision and where we need to go. We need to create jobs as well as retain jobs. And going towards retaining jobs, our niche is that we are the warehousing for the ports. And in 2014, the ports could be devastated with the opening of the Panama Canal. You know, they've widened the Panama Canal, which now means fleets no longer have to be on the Atlantic coast and dedicate a fleet on the Atlantic and one in the Pacific. Now fleets can go anywhere they want. They could pick up in China and go right to New York and drop off in New York if there's an open port. Commerce has no loyalty. It's gonna go to where the port is open, where it's gonna be more cost effective and more efficient to move the product in and off those ships and out to stores, warehouses. We need to focus in on that, and I'm looking at that now. And that's the reason why I have the support that I have from the residents and as well as from the electeds, because they understand I have that perspective. Now, let's talk about over $372 million annually is funded into the federal port repair fund. And that annually comes out of Long Beach and LA ports. But yet, a nominal amount of money comes back. You know, the work that the board of supervisors are doing right now, dredging the port, I'm sure you've probably seen Don do that, his dog and pony show at the opening, and moving all that sand out of that port area is key as well. But they're also creating more space now on that port area. So you couple that with the federal dollars that we should be bringing back to the state, which when I get into office will be the first thing I meet with Jerry Brown, is to focus in on those dollars and work with Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer.
Is Governor Brown supporting your campaign?
No, he has not taken a position on any of the campaign.
In the campaign, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And focusing in on that and bringing those dollars back into the community so that we can develop that infrastructure even more, make it more efficient so that we can get ships in and out faster, more efficient, and off our 710 and our freeways, clogging up our arteries and creating more traffic and congestion on our surface streets. So that's a vision for the future.
Yeah.
My opposition can't even begin to understand those concepts.
Oh. What do you hope to actually accomplish in 2 years?
In the 2 years, the first 2 years, will be spent looking at that issue and working collaboratively. I know this is a long-term solution as well. At the same time, I have some education bills. We talk about some unfunded, unfinished business.
Yeah.
I have some education bills that need to be put into legislation and signed by the governor. You're probably aware that I was the one who drafted the full-day kindergarten bill that gave school districts the ability to move to full-day kindergarten without the permission of the State Department of Education. We elect school board members and city councils to make decisions on the local level. We want to give them that authority to do that. So we created a bill that gave the school districts the autonomy to go to full-day kindergarten. That did a number of things. And it stemmed from meeting with parents at daycares when I was in the assembly, and finding out the parents couldn't send their kids to kindergarten because it was a half-day program. Their employers were not allowing them to take off work in the middle of the day to schlep them to and from school and to the daycare. So that was problem number one. I then met with teachers, and first grade teachers were telling me they spent so much time socializing and disciplining children, structuring them, because they were not used to attending school, because they didn't attend kindergarten. And so you look at the economic advantages, the family structure issues and how beneficial it is to the family, as well as to the academic. So you had three components there. I drafted the bill myself. It was a author-sponsored bill, which means I created the issue and brought it through. I went out and got all the support from all the Education Coalition and the parents groups. We got the bill passed, signed by Governor Ray Davis, I believe it was, and it became law. In the Latino community, and you'll find that many of our children stay with our relatives. They don't go to kindergarten. They stay with the relatives and are nurtured by the grandmothers and the aunts, and which is fantastic. But what they're not getting is the academics. So when they do enter school in the first grade, which is
Not ready.
they're not ready. They're not prepared.
So with the bill,
the mandated. So the kindergarten bill, okay, that I drafted, took that excuse away from people, got them to put kids into kindergarten.
Full-time
Now,
kindergarten.
Full-day kindergarten. Now,
Now,
you have to remember, kindergarten is the only grade in the state of California that is not mandated. So, two bills. One, currently, kindergarten is, its framework has been drafted on a part-time program. We need to redraft our framework, reevaluate the framework, and look at it on a full-time basis. The next thing we need to do is mandate full-day kindergarten. Those are my two next
What
bills.
about mandating kindergartners to be only between 6 years old or higher, or 5 years old or higher? Do you mandate that?
I think that's already been mandated.
Okay.
By the legislature. They've already set the ages on that. Our issue is, how do we get our kids into these schools and best prepared so they evaluate? Now, UCLA studies have shown that children who attended Head Start, kindergarten, first grade, all the way up, scored higher on the SATs and ACT tests than children who did not attend kindergarten. And the reason why is the time to make up that is just too tremendous.
Seems like there's more schools, or not, elementary schools are starting to have